For decades, Patti Labelle has been celebrated as one of the most powerful voices in music history, a woman whose talent, strength, and unforgettable performances inspired millions. But behind the glamorous spotlight is a story filled with painful losses, private struggles, and moments that many fans never saw coming. At 82, the legendary singer's journey reveals a side of her life that goes far beyond fame and success. From heartbreaking personal battles to the sacrifices she made along the way, there are hidden chapters of Patti Labelle's story that leave one haunting question behind. What really happened behind the scenes? Before Patti Labelle became the woman known around the world as the godmother of soul, before the standing ovations, the awards, and the unforgettable performances, there was a young girl growing up in a world far removed from fame and fortune. Her story did not begin with luxury or privilege. It began with determination, family struggles, and a voice that would eventually become her escape from the difficulties surrounding her. Born Patricia Louise Holt in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Patti grew up in a working-class neighborhood where life was not always easy. She was one of several children in her family, and from an early age, she learned the importance of strength, discipline, and faith. Her parents worked hard to provide for their children, but like many families of that era, they faced challenges that shaped the way Patti viewed the world. Music became the place where Patti found comfort. While other children were discovering their passions, she was discovering a gift that seemed impossible to ignore. Her voice carried a power and emotion that went far beyond her years. It was not just about singing notes, it was about telling stories, expressing pain, and connecting with people who needed to feel understood. But becoming a performer was never a simple dream. During her teenage years, Patti had to balance her ambitions with the expectations placed on her by family and society. At a time when many young women were encouraged to follow traditional paths, Patti was determined to chase something bigger. She believed that her voice was not just a talent, it was a purpose. That belief led her to form a group that would eventually change her life forever. Alongside other talented singers, Patti became part of a musical act that would later gain national attention. What started as a dream shared among young performers slowly became the foundation of one of the most remarkable careers in music history. However, success did not arrive overnight. The music industry was competitive, unpredictable, and often unforgiving. Patti and her group faced rejection, setbacks, and moments when giving up would have seemed like the easier choice. They had to fight for recognition in a business where countless talented artists disappeared before ever getting their chance. Still, Patti continued pushing forward. Her determination eventually paid off as her group began gaining attention, developing a unique sound, and building a reputation for powerful live performances. Audiences noticed something different about Patti, something raw, emotional, and unforgettable. She was not simply performing songs. She was pouring her entire life into every performance. But as her career began moving toward the spotlight, a new challenge appeared. The world was about to recognize her talent, but fame would bring a new set of struggles that nobody could have prepared her for. Because becoming a legend meant more than chasing success. It meant learning how to survive the pressure, heartbreak, and sacrifices that came with it. And as Patti Labelle's name started rising, the next chapter of her journey would reveal the hidden cost of becoming one of the most powerful voices in music history. As Patti Labelle's voice began reaching more people, the dream she had carried since childhood was finally becoming reality. The young girl from Philadelphia, who once sang for small audiences, was now becoming a recognized performer, and the world was beginning to understand that her talent was something truly special. But fame has a way of changing everything. For Patti, success came through years of dedication, sacrifice, and relentless determination. Her group, later known as Labelle, began gaining attention with their unique style, powerful harmonies, and unforgettable stage presence. Their breakthrough moment arrived when they released music that connected with audiences across the country, eventually leading to one of their biggest achievements, the iconic hit Lady Marmalade. The song became a cultural phenomenon and introduced Patti Labelle's voice to millions of people around the world. Suddenly, she was no longer just a talented singer trying to make it in the industry. She had become a star. But behind the excitement of success was a reality that many fans never saw. The entertainment world demanded constant perfection. Every performance required energy, every appearance required confidence, and every decision carried consequences. Patti was expected to be powerful on stage, even during moments when life outside the spotlight was difficult. The pressure of maintaining success could be overwhelming. Unlike many artists who find fame overnight, Patti had spent years fighting for recognition. She knew what it meant to struggle, and that made the responsibilities of fame even heavier. She carried not only her own dreams, but also the expectations of everyone who believed in her. As her career continued evolving, Patti eventually faced major changes. The group that helped launch her career went through its own challenges, and Patti had to make one of the most difficult decisions of her professional life, stepping forward as a solo artist. For many performers, leaving behind a successful group can be terrifying. The safety of familiar faces disappears, and suddenly the entire weight of success rests on one person's shoulders. But Patti took that risk. Her solo career allowed her to showcase a wider range of emotions and prove that she was more than just a member of a legendary group. She released powerful songs, earned critical acclaim, and continued building a reputation as one of the greatest vocalists of her generation. Yet while the world celebrated her achievements, Patti was quietly dealing with personal battles that fame could not solve. The applause could fill arenas, but it could not erase private pain. The awards could recognize her talent, but they could not protect her from heartbreak. And as Patti Labelle reached new heights in her career, the woman behind the superstar was experiencing moments that would test her strength in ways her fans never imagined. Because the greatest challenges of Patti's life were not waiting on a stage. They were waiting behind closed doors. To millions of fans, Patti Labelle represented strength. She was the woman who could step onto any stage, command an audience, and deliver performances filled with passion and emotion. But behind that powerful image was a woman who experienced moments of pain that no amount of fame or success could make disappear. The world saw the superstar. Few people saw the struggles. Throughout her life, Patti faced deeply personal challenges that forced her to rely on the same strength that carried her through the toughest years of her career. She learned that even after achieving dreams she once thought were impossible, life could still bring moments of uncertainty, disappointment, and heartbreak. One of the most difficult parts of being a public figure is that personal pain often happens under the eyes of the world. While celebrities are expected to continue smiling for cameras and performing for fans, they still experience the same emotions as everyone else. Patti's journey was no different. Her family remained one of the most important parts of her life, and many of the challenges she faced were connected to the people closest to her. The relationships she valued, the responsibilities she carried, and the losses she endured all shaped the person she became. Patti has often spoken about the importance of family and how deeply those connections influenced her choices. Behind her confident personality was someone who cared deeply about protecting the people she loved. But that love also meant experiencing moments of fear and sadness when those closest to her faced difficulties. One of the greatest emotional challenges in Patti's life came from dealing with serious health concerns within her family. Watching loved ones struggle brought a different kind of pain, one that could not be solved with a song or a performance. For someone whose career was built on giving hope to others, facing situations where she could not simply fix everything was incredibly difficult. Yet Patti continued doing what she had always done. She kept moving forward. She used her experiences as fuel, transforming personal struggles into compassion, inspiration, and a deeper connection with her audience. Her music carried more meaning because it came from someone who understood both joy and sorrow. But even as Patti overcame personal hardships, another battle was taking place, one that many fans never noticed. The entertainment industry often celebrates youth, constant reinvention, and staying in the spotlight. For artists who have spent decades performing, aging in public can bring its own challenges. Patti had to prove again and again that her talent was not defined by time. She was not simply a singer from another era. She was an artist whose voice continued reaching new generations. Still, the journey was not without sacrifices. Every decision, every comeback, and every achievement came with a price that only Patti truly understood. And while fans admired the legend they saw on stage, they were only beginning to discover the woman who had endured so much behind the scenes. For decades, Patti Labelle has been viewed as one of the strongest women in entertainment. Her voice could fill an arena, her performances could bring audiences to their feet, and her career became an example of perseverance. But away from the bright lights and roaring crowds was another side of Patti, a woman whose greatest roles were not as a performer, but as a mother, a daughter, and someone constantly searching for balance. While fans knew Patti as a superstar, her personal life revealed a much more complicated journey. Behind every successful performance were years of decisions, sacrifices, and moments when Patti had to choose between her career and the people she loved. The entertainment industry often demands everything from its biggest stars, and Patti understood that maintaining a legendary career meant giving up pieces of normal life that others often take for granted. Family was always at the center of Patti's world. Despite her demanding schedule, she remained committed to being present for the people closest to her. She embraced the responsibilities of motherhood and worked to create a sense of stability, even while living a life filled with constant travel, performances, and public attention. But being a famous entertainer does not make personal struggles disappear. If anything, fame can make those struggles more complicated. Every decision Patti made was viewed through the eyes of the public. Relationships, family choices, and personal challenges became topics of discussion, creating pressure that few people outside the spotlight could truly understand. Still, Patti continued building a life that extended far beyond music. She became known not only for her incredible voice, but also for her warmth, humor, and generosity. She used her platform to encourage others, share her experiences, and inspire people who were facing their own challenges. Her journey also revealed something important about aging in the entertainment world. Many performers struggle with the idea that their best years are behind them once they reach a certain age. But Patti Labelle challenged that idea. Instead of stepping away, she continued proving that talent, passion, and authenticity do not have an expiration date. At a time when many artists are forgotten, Patti remained relevant because she was never just a performer. She was a storyteller. Her songs carried the emotions of someone who had experienced love, disappointment, happiness, and loss. That honesty allowed generations of fans to connect with her in a way that went beyond fame. However, even with all her achievements, Patti's life still carried questions that many people wondered about. How does someone survive decades of pressure while keeping their heart open? How does a person who has given so much to others find strength during their own difficult moments? And what does Patti Labelle truly think about the journey that brought her from a young girl with a dream to one of the most respected voices in music history? Because after all the awards, recognition, and unforgettable performances, the final chapter of Patti's story is not just about what she achieved. It is about what she endured. And as Patti looks back at her incredible life at 82, the truth about her legacy becomes even more powerful. The final chapter reveals why her story is not simply one of fame, but one of survival, resilience, and an unbreakable spirit. After more than 6 decades in the spotlight, Patti Labelle's story stands as one of the most remarkable journeys in entertainment history. She entered the music industry as a young woman with a powerful voice and a dream, but she remained a legend because of something far greater than talent alone. She endured, she adapted, and she continued rising even when life tested her in ways that fans never fully understood. At 82, Patti Labelle represents more than a collection of hit songs, awards, and unforgettable performances. She represents survival. Her career is proof that success is not just measured by how high someone climbs, but by how they continue standing after facing the moments that could have broken them. Throughout her life, Patti experienced the highs of worldwide recognition and the lows of personal struggles. She learned that fame could bring incredible opportunities, but it could also bring pressure, expectations, and sacrifices that remained invisible to the public. Yet despite everything, Patti never allowed hardship to define her. Instead, she turned every challenge into another chapter of her story. Her music became a reflection of her life experiences. The emotion behind her voice came from years of understanding both happiness and heartbreak. When Patti sang about love, pain, and hope, audiences believed her because those emotions were not just performances. They were pieces of her own journey. That authenticity is one of the reasons her influence has lasted for generations. Many artists become famous. Few become timeless. Patti Labelle achieved something rare. She created a connection with people that continued long after the biggest moments of her career had passed. Younger generations discovered her music. Longtime fans continued celebrating her work, and fellow performers recognized the impact she had on the industry. But perhaps the most powerful part of Patti's story is not the fame. It is the courage behind it. The courage to continue after disappointment. The courage to face personal pain while still bringing joy to others. The courage to remain herself in an industry that constantly demands change. Her journey reminds fans that behind every public figure is a person carrying private battles. The woman audiences saw smiling on stage had experienced moments of fear, loss, and uncertainty, but she transformed those experiences into strength. And that may be the greatest legacy Patti Labelle leaves behind. Not just her voice, not just her music, but the message that even after hardship, there is still the possibility of hope. At 82, Patti Labelle's story is not a story of tragedy alone. It is a story of a woman who faced painful chapters and still managed to create something beautiful from them. But there is one final truth about Patti's journey that makes her story even more emotional. A realization about what she lost, what she sacrificed, and why her fans continue to admire her decades later. The biggest lesson from Patti Labelle's life was never about becoming famous. It was about becoming unforgettable.